you could throw a dart and hit corruption.
And it's wild. People are defending.
Yeah.
It's like you caught your girlfriend cheating. You're like, who's Brett?
Yeah.
Like, you can't go through my phone.
Exactly.
It's like, you know, all the judges are like, all her friends like,
How could you go through her phone like that?
It's like,
Who is Brett?
like, you know, like it's.
You wouldn't know who Brett was if you hadn't gone through my mouth.
He's just a friend. Why's your friend sending you pictures like this, huh?
Yeah. Except in this case, I'm like,
Who is the Taliban and why do they have my fucking rifle? Yeah.
Everyone's a victim!
Welcome back to Gerard versus Evil, brought to you by TelyRx.com. That's TelyRx.com. For all of your telehealth needs, make sure you go to TelyRx.com. Use code SNT for 20% off. You know you want that Ozempic. You know you need that Viagra. You probably need some Rogaine. And heck, I don't judge. You might need some Valtrex too. All that and more can be had at TelyRx.com without the judgment for 20% off when you use a code SNT. TelyRx.com. This is Gerard versus Evil, and a very special Gerard versus Evil on the road here in Nashville, Tennessee. To my left, finally co-hosting with me. I've been touring with this woman for 5 years now, and we've been passing like ships in the night. You finally have graced us with your presence. The best-selling author, the headline comedian, over 1 billion views online, Karen Ann Miljavic.
That sounded oddly familiar to the way that you bring me onto stage. He really sells it. He does.
She's phenomenal. And joining us is another author.
yeah, no.
The second time on the show, well, this first time on Gerard versus Evil, you're a slick and thick veteran and a veteran of, I guess, some bigger things that I guess are kind of cool too. Bronze medal winner, the Doc, as they call you, and now soon to be best-selling author, Christian Perez. Christian, we met in Miami, and now you live here in Nashville, man.
Yes, sir.
Give people that have been following along your journey an update.
Ooh, man, a lot has changed, right? So we went from Miami, good old lock and load Miami, good times there, shooting some machine guns. Now, wife is still active duty military, so that brought us over to Clarksville, specifically the Fort Campbell area. Yeah, man, since we last hung out, I have a kiddo now, so I'm a dad. Pretty much been focusing on staying consistent with that, you know, trying to be the best father that I possibly could.
Stay consistent with being a dad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Consistency is really good when you're a dad.
For sure. Oh, without a doubt.
For sure. Statistically, kids do well when the dad's consistent.
But actually, you know, and frankly, I mean, that's actually like what inspired me to write a lot of the stuff that I did write about eventually is exactly that. It's like this whole fatherhood premise and just trying to be that guy, be a good father for him and show him a good example, the kind of individual that commits to doing the thing and actually gets it done, so
nice.
I'm excited, man.
You write a lot about being a dad in your book?
Yeah, I tie a lot of it back to that. I tie a lot of it back to pretty much how I'm inspired by having a son, particularly because of the fact that like it's a legacy that you end up leaving, and it's whatever example I set for him will inevitably be the sort of mirror that he has to look at, and yeah, I mean, I focus primarily in this book, and not to start, going deep diving into the book.
Sell it.
but I mean, the biggest thing that I go into is primarily how culture has affected men so much in today's day and age, and realistically, the lessons that I learned through my time in Special Forces, specifically Special Forces selection, then the qualification course, which is the Q course, is about 2 to 3 years before you actually get your Green Beret. And then I tied it all back together with some of my experiences in combat, specifically when I got my first combat casualty, which, it's everything is training and you're in a safe environment right up until it's the real thing and you're no shit there, Well,
let's circle back. Let's circle back for the people that are new, right? Because last time we had you on, I mean, it was almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was just after the botched Afghanistan withdrawal.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And you were very fired up about that
Absolutely.
at the time. So for people that don't know you and don't know your story and your journey with us, Christian, why don't you tell them a little bit about your time in the military and leading up to what has now become, your story here beyond the assessment.
Yeah, so I spent pretty much the entirety of my 20s in the military. I've always wanted I always wanted to join specifically the infantry, and then from the infantry I got really, really just drawn into the Special Forces Regiment, and those guys have always been, sort of the standard bearers for any and all things military. And yeah, so I ended up trying out, going to selection. I got selected, which was, by far one of the most intense but still exciting and exhilarating moments of my life. It's 3 weeks pretty much. If anyone has ever heard of the documentary, it's called 3 Weeks in Hell, or I think it was 2 weeks then. Now it's 3 whole weeks.
Assume nobody knows anything about it. What is it?
Yeah, so selection is pretty much that's where anyone who is of a different military occupational specialty or a different job, or a 18 X-ray contract, which is a civilian who wants to go into the special forces, everybody funnels into selection.
So you could be a civilian and just go straight into like Pat Tillman kind of did?
Correct.
Okay.
You can do that. However, you still have to pass selection. Selection is a must pass. So
good luck to you, sir.
Yeah. And I talk about that specifically there because I was originally an 18 X-ray. So in 18 X-ray, I pretty much had a civilian life and I wanted to go into the special forces. And so that's what I ended up going. Being a special forces candidate does not in any way, shape, or form guarantee that you will be a Green Beret, that you will be a special forces guy. All that does guarantee you is if and only if you make it to the front steps of Camp McCall, which is where selection happens, then you'll have the opportunity to try out for special forces. So with that being the case, a lot of guys either get dropped or quit prior to. So the attrition rate starts the moment you show up to basic training, you know? But suffice it to say, you end up going to selection.
By design, right?
Correct.
By design.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're trying to weed people out.
100%. I mean, yeah, you take it for granted. Correction, you don't take it for granted until you really realize what it is that you're getting yourself into, man. And again, so I did selection, went to the Q course, and then that's all I had before I was deployed to Afghanistan. And they used to tell us that all the time. They were like, some of you guys, all you're going to have is selection and the qualification course, which that's where you learn your job as a special forces guy. Selection is to kind of weed you out, figure out who has the physical, mental, and character attributes that we want in the regiment, right? Then you have the Q course or the qualification course. That's where guys actually get taught how to do their job. So that's where I learned to be a special forces medic and all the things that encompass that within the side of unconventional warfare. It's very broad.
Yeah, but it's also, I find the dichotomy of that just so fascinating, where it's like you're being trained to kill and being trained to save at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
So can I ask you this?
By all means, yeah.
This might be controversial, but not for Gerard versus Evil.
No.
So what did you think about the removal of, was it DEI that they had for the military? Or
so you got Pete Hegseth that just came in and
So I'm curious what your thought is on that.
I mean, I'll tell you what, Pete Hegseth is an absolute boss. So if that in and of itself answers your question, there it is. But I'll elaborate a little bit more, man. That guy, he's a phenomenal dude. And I think the fact of the matter is, like, a lot of the guys, especially the grunts, the guys that are like boots on the ground doing the job, genuinely appreciate his approach to what would otherwise never be something particularly controversial. I mean, the fact of the matter is, what this guy came in advocating for is a lethal fighting force.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's particularly shocking. And frankly, nobody that signs up for my job, nobody that signs up to be an infantry guy, nobody that signs up to do any sort of combat arms will in any way, shape, or form find that to be particularly controversial. On the contrary, like, what this guy does is actually like embrace that warrior ethos, get guys to group around him and gives the military the identity that it's always had. That was the original, intent behind the, Department of Defense. But realistically, like, it is a very offensive Department of Defense. And that's where we found our identity. And to see that finally come back, I mean, it's been phenomenal. I was just talking to a couple guys about this. The military encompasses that very same mantra of, like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and it's what I've been an advocate for my whole life. It's precisely the principles that I intend on instilling in my son, because that is how you ultimately you become a success in life, and you find true purpose when you're able to do precisely that. I don't want anyone to hand me anything. On the contrary, I want to earn it. And so that's exactly the type of culture that Pete Hegseth is bringing back into the military by getting rid of things like DEI.
From a civilian looking in, when we were growing up, there was nothing that epitomized excellence like the United States military.
Yeah.
There's no part of the earth we can't get to. There's nothing we can't do. We're the United States military. And then,
you couldn't even get accepted if you needed, like, dental work.
Well, yeah.
There was a very high standard.
Getting into West Point, very, very, very selective. The Air Force, remarkably selective. And then the Special Forces after that, the selection process, it really was supposed to be the best of the best. And then as we got into, the late 20-teens and then obviously the 2020s, everything you saw just felt like we're barely competent.
Yep.
We can't do anything. I mean, our government can't even assassinate an 80-year-old president golfing. I'm sorry, allegedly, or somebody can't do it. Probably just a crazy civilian that was able to, whatever. Like, oh no, the roof is slopey. Can't have anybody up there. Yeah, not like we've become incompetent, and it's at a time when the world has reacted to that by becoming very adversarial. I think the world at large, and we talked a lot about China, we talked a lot about Russia. I think we've left a vacuum where people smell blood in the water and they go, oh, okay, no, you know what? I think I will test America on this. I think they watched that Afghanistan withdrawal and went, I think we're going to go ahead and go into Ukraine. Yeah. And I personally, I don't know, but I feel like Hegseth and I feel like getting Tulsi Gabbard back involved, I feel like this is a course correction that's absolutely necessary to make sure that our armed forces are the epitome of excellence that they should be.
Just yesterday, actually, my understanding is Pete Hegseth flew from somewhere in the United States to Germany, and one of the first things he did in the morning was go work out with
PT
with the 10th Special Forces Group.
Yeah, and he kept up with them, which is kind of hilarious because nobody even knows Lloyd Austin, who they don't know who he was. He was our Secretary of Defense for the last 4 years. He went AWOL.
Yeah,
for
and
6
no
months.
One knew. Yep.
He was completely unhealthy. He couldn't walk up a flight of stairs. He didn't show up to work. Our Secretary of Defense. We're running 2 proxy wars right now. It's Ukraine versus Russia, Israel and Hamas, which it turns out we've been paying for the whole time through U.S. aid. Awesome.
And how many stairs was it? Because it can be.
You're telling me.
Pretty challenging. He had to carry my luggage up the stairs to get to the studio, and it was quite.
Yeah, it was touch and go there for a minute, man. But and again, it just seems like one of these things that. Look, okay, you want more diversity in the art department at your high school? Sure. All right. Yeah. Let's make sure that, the Aztec artists are getting as much, exposure as Renaissance. Fine. All right. But when it comes to life and death, when it comes to protecting the largest nation, the largest armed forces on planet Earth, trillions of dollars and 350 million lives at stake. I don't think best of the best is really because when we were growing up, that was the whole advertising. 100%. Join the Army. Yeah. Best of the best. Yep. That was it.
Yeah, but I think that's the mindset pretty much of the country right now is offend me all you want, but do what you got to do to keep this country safe. I don't care. 100%. I don't care what I don't care. I don't care, Margaret.
Yeah.
Yes, there it is.
Exactly.
Oh man, that's another legend right there. Man, JD Vance.
Absolutely.
He's killing.
But that is the thought. That's where we're at. Is we don't care.
Yes.
These things that you guys care about, we just don't care anymore.
People are
the
tired
safety
of it,
and the sovereignty of our country is what we care
100%.
about. Period.
And what you're seeing is significantly higher numbers of guys going in to join, because shocker. Guys want to fight for an organization, a government, and a country that's not going to, when they show up, is not going to immediately just start trying to, shove DEI down their throat. If that's what they wanted, they would have gone to work at their local Starbucks,
Sure.
But that's not where they're at.
Yeah.
And
it's not even the DEI so much, right? Like for me, it's just that I want to know that the person next to me is competent enough to save
absolutely,
my life.
Man. Yep.
Right? Like I have
100%.
to be able to trust this person.
You're absolutely right. I can tell you, having been in a combat environment and getting shot at never. While that was the case, did I think to myself, man, I really wish that the guy next to me looked a lot more like me because I would feel infinitely safer if that were the case. Absolutely not. On the contrary, it was, number one, it wasn't coming on me to make sure that my guys were trained up on medical processes. Number two, I knew that the guy next to me was capable of executing if necessary.
Yeah.
And that's all I cared about.
There's no way in that high pressure environment that you can do your job if you're focused on whether or not the other person's doing their job. You can't play high school basketball if you don't believe passing the ball to the other person, they're going to catch it. At that level, it will completely submarine the entire team.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, I'm not going to hit the cutoff man because I don't think the second baseman can handle the throw. It'll destroy the whole team, right? Now you're putting into that higher pressure cooker of like, oh, by the way, if we screw up, we're all dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's okay because, Jamie needed to paint his nails. Also, like, not for nothing, and this is going to sound horrible, but, I'm a pro 2A guy. You're here in America, give him a gun. If you're undergoing hormone treatment, I don't know if you've ever been around your wife when she changed birth control pills.
Listen.
Like, if you're undergoing hormone therapy, you should not be around military-grade firepower anywhere.
No. That's why my husband keeps our stuff in a safe, thank God, because I'm perimenopausal. And there are days, you know what I mean? You know what I mean.
I got you.
I've been pro 2A my whole life until she's looked at me and given me a stern look, and I'm like, well,
uh-oh.
Maybe not everybody should have a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had a front row seat to what it's like when the estrogen and progesterone are all flop.
Now imagine doing that like on purpose. You know?
That's what I'm like. So the mental soundness is very like. So to that point, perimenopausal women should not be in the military.
I mean, that's
how dare
that's
you?
What did I say?
Everybody found it controversial when Pete Hegseth wrote his book. I think it was War on Warriors. He wrote his book, and in his book, he has a whole chapter where he talks about women in combat. And he also did an interview, and he discussed precisely that. And he repeated it. He said, I don't think women should be in combat roles. And to be frank, I echo that sentiment. Not because I don't think that there isn't a role for women in combat. There is. There absolutely is. I mean, there are some phenomenal individuals. People don't see the behind the scenes that happens, right? Like,
you're talking about on the ground, boots on the ground. You're not talking about like they could be drone operators.
100%.
Yeah, they could be administrators.
Even when it comes to some of the best individuals that work in the CIA or intelligence acquisitions or anything.
We're good manipulators.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So they're excellent.
I'm shocked the whole FBI isn't just Puerto Rican women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. They knew I was cheating before I even thought I was cheating. But I was like, damn, I probably am cheating. Damn, you're right. You have made a good case. I didn't know I was cheating on you, but I do apologize.
Yes, there is absolutely 100% a role, without a shadow of a doubt. However, what I'm specifically saying, and I think this, I'm not putting any words in the SecDef's mouth, but what I assume that he was alluding to, having been an infantry guy himself, is no shit, boots on the ground in a combat setting wherein you are, engaged with an enemy combatant directly. Mm-hmm. That is a whole different ballgame. Look, I'm 5'10", right? 5'10" on a good day, ish.
I don't know. I'm 5'7". I feel like I tower over you.
Probably. All right. So I mean, I'm an average sized guy is what I'm trying to get at. You know, the special there's some guys on my team like freaking massive tanks, dude. Absolutely just tanks, right? I weigh about 280 pounds with all my kit, gun, rifle, plates, everything. 280, close to 300. Those guys are 300 plus. Mm-hmm. You're gonna tell me that you're gonna have a 100-pound girl drag this dude?
That's a lot to haul.
Hell no. And see, that's what I'm looking for, right? I'm looking for the guy or the girl if she's capable, but it's few and far between. Few and far between. The guy that is capable of dragging me if I get hit. Because I know for a fact that if that guy, if the buddy that's taking care of me were to get hit, I know I could do it. Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, so the women who are in are the women who've proven themselves physically as well as mentally.
I would not be opposed to them being there.
Right.
My argument,
like they need to have a really strong jaw.
Yeah. Now,
you know what I'm talking about.
True.
Those girls, like you just look at you just know like,
for sure.
they're gonna be really good at this sport because they look like a dude.
Without getting too controversial, though, I will say this. The social dynamics change significantly when you introduce a female in a very, very machismo alpha male.
Yeah, you can't put me on base with Demi Moore for 6 months and expect me to behave myself. Come on,
just say it.
She might have a bald head, but she got some tiggle bitty.
She got some tigs, bro.
Yeah.
And she's in desert shape.
And she did not have a bra on the entire time.
What am I supposed to do? And my testosterone is through the roof. I'm in my caveman moment right now, man. No, this is.
They weren't real though, because their nipples were in the same spot on both sides.
Yeah, we're gonna need to pull that up, Don. Just for the people that don't know what we're talking about, in the production note here, Don, go ahead and throw up as much G.I. Jane B-roll as you want.
Master Chief?
Lieutenant, seek life elsewhere.
Suck my dick.
But that's a factor to consider, though, because, the physicality, sure, 100%, I think we can all agree on that. But the other aspect that people don't often want to talk about is
just want competence, bro.
Yeah.
Well, and okay, so, and I've had conversations like this with friends of the women being in a position where they might be assaulted. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
I could tell you from my personal experiences, we had one female infantry woman that was with us, and we had to make it a point because we often, especially being in special forces, that we work with foreign partners, and working in Afghanistan, we're working with Afghan allies. We had to pretty much ensure that there was 2 to 3 American male soldiers with her at all times.
Mm-hmm.
For the very fact that, I mean, you're dealing with different cultures where they don't see females very often, and when they do, you know, it's like they don't.
But what
don't
about
put
the
them.
American?
The American guys? I'll tell you, they will drop the book on somebody that does that
Quickly.
without hesitation. That is one thing that like the Army has like nipped in the bud. The DoD across the whole, like
They have to.
They have to.
You can't allow that.
Yeah,
for
no,
a second.
hell no. And that's where everyone will draw the line. Yeah. Like you are persona non grata if you even come close to doing something like that. Now, sometimes to a fault, and I say this very cautiously, and what I mean by that is a lot of guys will oftentimes just be scared to even talk to a girl in the Army. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, it's like that. It's like if she says you looked at me weird, oh, dude, you're immediately under scrutiny from the highest levels.
But
down.
see, and this is the stuff though that you want to avoid.
100%.
This shouldn't
of
even
course,
be
of course.
an issue.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. There should not be a single woman on the face of the planet that joins the military and is afraid that she might be assaulted or accosted or in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
You know, feel threatened by any of her brothers in arms.
Yeah.
On the contrary, like that's why I say like it is. Yeah, you are.
Yeah,
done,
but also
dude.
don't be twerking on TikTok doing the whole barrack bunny thing either, though.
Preferably,
Like,
yeah,
I mean,
yes,
like,
ideally.
Is
you
that
know.
a thing? Our timelines
God.
are so different.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. After I went to the Commander-in-Chief ball, TikTok was like, "Oh, I know what you like." Yeah, I walked around that thing like the Commander-in-Chief ball was a trip, man. It was. First of all, I was really honored to be there. It was great to be at the inauguration, and and see the jubilation and you could tell the people that were there, the armed forces people that were there. It was like a sigh of relief for these people. You know, the officers, they were like, man, thank God. Like they felt like they were in much better hands, right? Yep. And they're being very cool about it because, you know, they're not supposed to pick a side, right? Like, but you could tell they were like, yeah, like, you know, and side note, the most cordial ways I've ever been turned down by women before ever. They were like, I was like, hey, you know, how you doing? They were like, oh, I'm sorry, we're not allowed to fraternize in uniform. I was like, all right,
Can't argue with that.
Fair. But I'm trying to get you out the uniform. No, I'll just go this way. Okay, yeah, no, it's fine. But it was also grotesque, and I felt a great deal of shame as I'm looking around, and these are officers, most of them, and you know, people that have, you know, they've re-upped, and I was still like, bro, these are early 20s people. These are young kids, and I feel a deep shame that, you know, they're fighting and I'm not, you know, and it should be me, it should be my generation, people my age now, like not these children, you know. And I talked with guys a lot about it, and they were like, well, the problem is, you know, and also, you know, your ego gets involved. And I was like, I can kick the shit out of all these kids. Like, what are we doing here? Like, they're like, yeah, but you can't run a mile. So, you know, without your ankle giving out. So, you know, the other thing too is they have to get them at a point where they won't question authority. Where I think at our age, we'll all be like, yeah, no, sure, I'll kill this guy, but why again? Yeah. Like, what did he do? Like, are we positive that's a terrorist and not an aid worker? Because you got that wrong before, right? Like, so they have to be young. And I found it very grotesque that at the Commander-in-Chief ball, there were defense contractor lobbyists there as well. And I'm like, you sons of bitches. Like, to move your stock up 1%, you'd kill everybody in this room. But you're shaking hands and fraternizing. And I found that very, very difficult. It was very mixed emotions. Yeah. Because on the one level, I felt a great personal shame that these kids are the shield in front of me. And on the other hand, I felt great pride in how proud they were at the moment and how much purpose they felt in doing it and how much they wanted to be that shield. And it was just a very contradictory thing, man. I was very proud of them and very shameful of myself, and then also, you know, angry at the system that created this. Yeah. You know, so all that is to deflect from the fact that I got turned down by all those barrack bunnies. But the whole thing, right? When you look back at it, you said you spent your 20s. Yeah. Right? You now have a young kid, and we're going to get into the book here in a second. as you look at your son, and you've seen some. I mean, you were a special forces medic. You've seen some wild shit. You've experienced some crazy things. Would you encourage your son to enlist?
Yes.
You would?
I would.
Okay.
I would.
What would you like to see out of our country to make that worth your family's sacrifice? Or what you're willing to sacrifice?
Yeah.
And that was the big takeaway from the commander-in-chief ball is I really looked at Trump and Vance, and he's doing his dance, and the people love him, and I'm like, man, I just really, really hope we're right about you and that you are going to make this government, this corrupt government, worth what these kids are willing to sacrifice.
Do you think your wife would?
Probably not. Probably not. And I think one of the big reasons why I would is because of what I learned in the military. Like I learned self-discipline. I learned tenacity. I learned, how to be an individual who fights for what he wants, who actively works towards a thing, who sets a goal, first of all, sets feasible, reasonable goals. Like that in and of itself is a skill set. So many people have like these, aspirations, but like, okay, well, what's step one? What goal, what metrics do I need to meet first? And those are things that you learn inevitably in the military. It does instill values in you that are unquestionably beneficial to you and to your life.
Were you a disciplined guy before you went into the military?
I thought I was.
Was your dad in the military?
No, I'm a first generation.
What
military.
made you want to?
My mom always wonders the same thing. I mean, I always.
I bet she does.
She always wonders the same. She's like, where did this come from? Oh yeah, but I mean, the biggest thing is I think is trying to find that true definition of what I aspire to be like, because everybody paints this sort of image of their ideal, of their standard of sort of perfection. And where I saw that reflected was in the military. And again, it goes back to what we were originally talking about is like what optics matter, right? So the picture that you paint of the military and what it actually stands for, the values that it stands for, that resonates with some people and it may not resonate with others. But the fact of the matter is for me, those values, that moral compass, that resonated with me, and it's what I aspire to be. Because at the end of the day, we're all innately flawed, and so I saw that as an opportunity to chase that, and it all started with walking in to the recruiter's office. But the fact of the matter,
which I bet was like a huge step forward.
It is.
For you, like,
well, a lot of people think it's like whatever.
What's wild to me is that you did
years.
that.
Yeah, they make you sign away 4 years.
Yeah, but so you did that. You had this calling on your heart and a purpose. But I'm sure when he suggested you write a book, it was like, oh, that's scary.
Oh, it is.
Absolutely. It's so wild to think that
Yeah.
you would be able to walk into an office to sign up to do something like that with so much purpose, and then something like so simple as writing a book. Or even we said you should do a movie next.
Well, he doesn't get to shoot at his critics though,
Well,
right? Like,
yeah.
when you're out there on the battlefield, and somebody's like, "Hey, you suck," you're like, "I got something for you."
He goes, well, because when we met and you said,
"We're gonna need a drone strike
how
on
scary
the."
that must be, and I was just thinking like, how scary that. That stage is so scary. Meanwhile, you're a combat. What?
It's like everybody thinks they would be the superhero, but then like I get one bad comment about one of my jokes online, and I'm like, drone strike. Drone strike. We need you to zero in on the IP address of Hello Kitty 69. Yeah.
No, man, you guys are putting yourselves out there. Like the fact of the matter is, like you guys are under a lot of. Like I'm not in the public line.
No,
like,
sure.
I
tell this to all the special forces guys. Like we're the real heroes.
I mean, you're welcome. How could you even get through it without comedians to make you laugh?
Although I will say, when I go to veterans events with Candace, like they do thank her. They're like,
I'm sure they do.
I could not have gotten through my deployment without her.
Laughter and orgasm. That's all you need.
I don't understand it. Where are you guys spanking on base? Like, is there like a room? What are we doing here?
Do we want to talk?
It's an open barrack. I don't understand. I'd be like,
that's why they have to mop the floor.
Christian,
so
knock it off! It's sticky everywhere in here. How am I sticky when it's everywhere? It's like it's sand. It's like you're making concrete.
Oh man, It's an experience.
Medic! No, that one you got to figure. You got to figure that one out yourself.
You're on your own on that one,
So
buddy.
what chapter of your book did you write about that?
Oh yeah, right. That's in the bonus content actually. That's the bougie version.
That's Patreon. That's the Patreon. Yeah, that's a good say. So talk to us about Beyond the Assessment. What did you know?
So pretty much, you inspired me to write this book. When you first like brought it up, you're like, hey man, you should do it, and it's the kind of thing. I think it's like 90-something% of people, if like when polled, will be like, I want to write a book, and it's close to like 2% that ever actually do.
Less than that. It's
Yeah.
1% and 1%.
Yeah, it's super few. And the fact of the matter is, in today's day and age, it's not too difficult as long as you actually like stick to it on a regular basis.
People underestimate how much work it is.
It is a
how
lot.
mentally exhausting it is.
Oh, it's exhausting.
It is.
I mean, I've
takes a lot
had
out of you.
sleepless nights of just like reviewing and
How long did it take you to write it?
Several months. I think it was probably like 8 months total.
Especially because you did it on your own, right? Like, so you didn't even have a deadline to hit, which actually helps me to have a
fair enough.
deadline
Yeah,
because it's like,
yeah.
well, I have to. I have no
Yeah,
choice. But with
absolutely.
no deadline, that's that military training.
Yes.
You had that discipline to get that book
for
written.
Sure, for sure. And on top of that, I care and I always told myself like I would not stand behind something I don't truly believe in. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't put something out there and be like, hey, I think you need this unless I actually thought, yes, I live by this and I'm inspired by this and therefore I want to.
And this serves
give it.
a purpose, part of your purpose.
Absolutely. And so after talking to you, and kind of, just brainstorming and thinking about it, like, because I remember when you first told me that, I thought to myself, like, what do I possibly have to write? Like, what? I know, and I always get that look, like, really, dude? Like, really? Like,
So much.
No, I know, but sometimes you don't really see that value until you really do some serious introspection, And what really sort of became the catalyst for me, where I said, you know what, I have to do this, was when my son was born. That was where I was like, okay, I need to do this. And the last chapter is a letter to my son. Specifically, I'm 30-something years old. I don't have, decades and decades of life experience and wisdom. But whatever I do know now, I know.
It's so funny you say that. Sorry to cut you off because
no worries.
you have the humility after everything you've done to say that. Meanwhile, Barack Obama had written 2 memoirs by 33 years old. So,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
'Cause imagine being 29 and being like, the world needs to know how I did this.
No, and and one thing about writing a book too is eventually you might want to write another one. You know what I mean? Like the more you think about and grow, and part of the process of writing a book is peeling back layers of yourself.
For sure.
Which is it's also very therapeutic to write a book.
It absolutely is. 100%.
And now you've got something that's going to live on forever.
Yes.
That your son will have forever.
Yep. And
Well, Christian,
What's up, brother?
and then we'll get into it. I want to read your forward.
Sure.
To my son Elijah, there is no more extraordinary gift from God than having you in my life. To my beautiful wife, Paloma, my forever and always, may I always be a husband, a father who deserves your love and admiration. Lastly, to the young man reading this and aspiring to improve, never stop pursuing excellence.
Yes,
That's
sir.
very, very, very powerful. And then you have a note to the reader here as well, which I think is great. Note to the reader. It is with the utmost respect, humility, and appreciation that I thank you for dedicating your valuable time to engage with this book. I do not take your trust for granted. What you have in your possession is a tangible opportunity to change the course of your life. While this may appear to be a bold claim, as you read on, I trust that you will find truth in this statement. Passive consumption, however, will not suffice. Although I truly believe you will find genuine inspiration and a renewed sense of purpose by simply reading these pages, I pray that you find it within you to actively engage with the content of this book. Write in the margins, underline and highlight passages. Start from any chapter. Tear out pages if you feel so inclined. Make this book yours. Ask yourself the difficult questions you've been avoiding and confront them head on. I have no doubt in my mind that doing so will shape the person you become by the end of this book. Again, thank you for entrusting me with your most valuable asset. Now let's get to work. That's phenomenal, man.
Thank
That's
you,
very powerful. And that
you.
definitely sets up the reader for what to expect from this book.
Yeah, I mean, it's a call to action. It really is. And I took that as a precise opportunity to call specifically young men, not because I don't want young women to do the same, but particularly young men in today's day and age, a call to action, a call to steer away from this somnambulant loss of purpose, wherein they're just kind of like just walking through life, not necessarily knowing where to go or what to do next. And also to that veteran who might have just gotten out and now doesn't know what to do with his hands, because that's where I found myself. Nothing that I write, everything that I write in this book is based off my personal experiences. It's the things that I learned from what I went through. And in many ways, realistically, what I hope that it does is it gives guys just a brief, tangible, just word of encouragement, just something that they can go back to, and say, okay, one more day, push forward one more day. Today I want to set a goal. And I talk about that. I make it a point to be like, just stop everything you're doing, set one goal right now, one small thing that you could do today. It's that much more than you would have otherwise done.
That's such a small thing. Jordan Peterson talks about that a bunch. And that mentality, especially for the guys that are struggling, it's been well documented. We've done a bunch on Slick and Thick, and we talked about it on our first episode, the veteran suicide pandemic and epidemic, which I will sidebar or weave. I'm doing the weave. I'm going to come back. I think that our government wants our veterans unhealthy and disjointed. I don't think they want you guys communicating with each other. I don't think they want you happy, healthy. I think that they view it as a threat, that you are the type of people that would actually hold a corrupt government accountable. So I think that it's been an intentional controlled obsolescence of old military material. And I don't think that they want a fulfilled, coordinated, happy, and healthy veteran class. But that's for a whole nother show. I've been through, it's been well documented, I've been through some very, very deep, dark times in my life. Been suicidal, been depressed. And that mentality that you had right there, if anybody's listening to this, forcing yourself to get up and do something and just get a win. Get a win, right? Jordan Peterson talks about make your bed. You got to accumulate wins. Yeah. And you got to start building that mentality that I can do something. I provide use. In my life, I've been traveling everywhere. And, it's, I guess I'm going through a midlife crisis. I'm kind of in midlife. And it's like, man, has this all been like for personal vainglory? Like, has this just been all for like fame, fortune? Like, has it all been me? Or is this adventure mean something? Like all these places I've been, all these people I met. And I think that my kind of job through this life now is to share the lessons that I've learned by going to these places people haven't gone and seeing things people haven't seen. And I come back to the number one thing, the number one way to be happy and be fulfilled is to be of service and be of use. If you are of service to other people, if you change your mentality to be, instead of what can I get out of this situation, what can I give to this situation, you will find yourself becoming a person of use. And within that, there's a lot of love that you can accept and a lot of love that you can give. I don't think we're hardwired to accept love when we're not useful. I think our soul rejects it because we know it's pity. It's not love, right? So if you can get up and find something to be of use, and some of that is just getting your own shit together because you can't be useful if you don't have your shit together. And then once you are a person of service, once you are a person of use, the world starts to bend its will to you.
100%, man.
Yeah.
One of the things I talk about is, like what you were alluding to, creating order around yourself first. You can't create order in the lives of other people if your life is unorganized. You just simply can't, because at the end of the day, you are going to reflect that which you surround yourself with, right? So if I create a life of disorder, then what I project, even if my words don't necessarily say it, what I project will be disorder inevitably. And people are receptive to that, and so like, I challenge readers to talk about the things that they don't want to talk about, and I do so primarily by starting off my book with talking about the importance of physical fitness and how incredibly useful that is, because at the end of the day, I chalk that up to it being the most sincere form of truth that you could be to yourself. You cannot. The best level of order that you can create is order within your own body. That is what you have complete and utter autonomy over. No one else could tell you what to do with your body, But if you can establish that level of discipline both mentally and physically. You know, to maintain a rigorous workout structure, whether you're tired or not.
Especially as you age.
Especially, absolutely,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially a lot of people.
And you're living it, and you're living the talk. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you've gotten yourself into pretty good shape
Yeah,
here.
man. Yeah, every single. I have in my life. I've established pretty much like non-negotiables. My non-negotiables
No
are
butt stuff.
Oh, dude, that's implied task.
Okay.
That's his wife's non-negotiable. She'll do 96, but she
It's called beyond the assessment.
There it is. There it is.
You know what? That shows up in every other aspect of your life, though. When you're taking care of yourself, your life
100%.
is better in every other sense
yeah.
of the word.
I mean,
and
yeah.
as a parent, you need that. You need
Yes.
that release of releases stress. It'll help you with your patience. It helps because I mean it's chaos. Being a parent is chaos.
Absolutely.
So that's incredibly important. And what
Yes.
you've done is you found another way to to make yourself of service to people.
Yeah.
Because you clearly have a loving heart and a sense of purpose. And
It was hard finding that though. That sense of
yeah.
purpose after you get out is very
but
difficult.
it's hard for everyone. That's the point though, is
Yeah.
like just as a human being, it doesn't matter, like just as a human being, everyone at some point wakes up in a season of life and might feel lost.
100%.
And you might have been like on track for something and found a purpose, and then wake up one day and be like, I just feel lost. And what you've done is you've done your part to help people through that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really what I hope people get out of this book. I hope that the reader, especially the individual who is, like you described, just lost, who doesn't know, like, what is my purpose? If you can find the purpose in the tiny, tiny, tiny little things.
Start small.
You know, just start small. Before you know it, you start finding purpose in, like, the bigger things. And you start realizing, okay, you know what? I can take this lesson learned and I can now reflect this, and somebody else could benefit from this. And the more order you establish around yourself, the more at peace you are. And the more at peace you are, again, people are receptive to that. They really are. I mean, I don't know what it is. I'm not, into some like weird like juju stuff, but like people they're drawn to you when you have a semblance of like peace and order and structure in your life, because people want
Stability.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
People want that.
I got to ask you a difficult question.
Yeah, by all means.
Because, I think Midge is right. You very clearly, you're a caring guy. You care. You mentioned God, you pray. You're talking about, being of service to the community. You want you wanted this to save and help people, but you're also a trained killer. And you were employed by the United States government to execute tasks. How does that resonate? How does that sit with you now as a civilian on the outside, looking back and as you're trying to be constructive with your time and build humanity? How does your past employment resonate with you?
Oh, I embrace it wholeheartedly. It's my identity. And what I mean by that is, at the end of the day, I would still be willing to do precisely that to anybody that became a threat to my family. I have no qualms, picking up a weapon and using it against somebody who means me or my loved ones harm. And you need men that are capable of doing that. You need men that are wise. You need men that are intelligent. You need men that are caring and loving, that will be there with their wife and child.
Yeah.
But you also need men that are trained to and capable of violence.
The only thing that stops bad men is good men willing
Absolutely.
to be bad.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But now that you've seen the fallout of Afghanistan and you've seen, when you came in the Bush years, do you feel like your nobility in willing to stand up for your fellow countrymen, do you think that was abused?
No.
You think the Afghanis were an existential threat to us?
You're just talking big picture?
Big picture,
Like
yeah.
on a, look, the fact of the matter is, I didn't sign up to fight any one specific war or another. You see, like I didn't sign up because I said I wanted to go fight against specifically the Taliban. I said, I'm going to fight to protect my home country against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Sure.
The moment I signed that down the line, I also agreed to obey the rules and regulations and orders of the officers appointed over me. What that implies is,
I'm not Interpol, man. Like,
No,
I'm
no,
not,
no,
yeah,
I
yeah,
got you,
I'm
I got
not-
you, I got
This
you,
isn't
I
a
got you.
war crime
No, no,
tribunal.
no,
I'm
for sure.
asking, yeah.
Yeah.
In retrospect, now that, especially now, if you believe, Sean Ryan's intel, we're paying the Taliban $50 million a month.
Yeah, but that's I'm glad that departments like DOJ are going in there and cracking down on all that stuff.
Yeah.
The government became so freaking massive that you could throw a dart and hit corruption.
Yep.
You know, like inevitably.
And it's wild. People are defending it.
Yeah.
It's completely crazy.
Yeah,
It's like you caught your
Yeah.
girlfriend cheating. You're like, who's Brett? You're like, you can't go through my phone.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, you're right. But who's Brett?
Right.
You know? And then you know, all the judges are like, all her friends, like, how could you go through her phone like that? It's like, who is Brett? Like, you know, like it's
You wouldn't know who Brett was if you hadn't gone through my phone.
he's just a friend. Why's your friend sending you pictures like this, huh?
Yeah. Except in this case, I'm like, who is the Taliban and why do they have my fucking rifle?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And hey, how did all the rifles we leave behind in Afghanistan make their way down to the Sinaloa cartel? Like, how did that
Wait a
happen?
minute.
And Millie's just like, trust me, it's less expensive if we leave the stuff there.
Absurd, man.
Dude, people
Whose
gotta go to jail.
condoms were those that you said?
Yeah,
Whose condoms
exactly.
are those?
$50
Why are
million
those condoms
worth
there?
of condoms to Hamas in Gaza.
Oh,
those
Did
all
you see
real?
that?
Yeah, that's
50
wild.
million
That is
condoms.
wild. Yeah.
That's
And here I thought, weren't they dealing with like starvation or something? I don't think anyone that's particularly hungry is inclined to need $50 million worth of condoms.
yeah.
But that's just me.
It's funny that they, you know, the word for drone and condom in Farsi is probably exactly the same.
Well, I'm pretty sure they posted on Instagram what they were doing with them. It's like,
Yeah, that's another. Even that, it's like, you know, Israel has the Iron Dome and it's got satellites all over, but we're just supposed to believe these guys paraglided on in there. Anyway. So about beyond the assessment.
I did like your question though, and I kind of, if you don't mind, I would love to go back.
Please
to,
do,
like,
yeah. And
'cause-
look, I've got nothing, and I think you know this, and anybody listening obviously knows, you know, how much gratitude, love, and admiration I have for our soldiers and our veterans. But I do not like our government. I've been very, very, very clear about that, and I think that they have abused the best part of what our generation had. They took the empathy of women and weaponized it, and they took the valor of men and abused it.
Absolutely.
And those are the two best parts of what we are as humans. And our government identified it, and they used it to force us on each other. And I just wonder if that is something that isn't driving a lot of the mental health issues we're having with our veterans after, when they actually sit back, look at this shit the way Pat Tillman did, and go, wait, am I here to defend an opium fucking crop for Pfizer? Like, that's not what I signed up for.
Look, it would be a lie to tell you that those thoughts don't cross your mind. At the end of the day, I'm not a robot, and those guys aren't robots. You know, like, it's like what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about, you know, these guys that are like sacrificing their lives. They still, but they have to be bipartisan. You know, bipartisan. They can't pick any one side or another. You know, look, at the end of the day, like, you're gonna have your opinions. I just can't act on it necessarily, you know, in a direct manner. I can't, like, when I was in the service, I could not just stand up and be like, you know, I'm in vehement opposition to Obama's or Biden's policies, et cetera, et cetera. I cannot. I signed on that dotted
is it
line.
an
I
internal
cannot.
struggle?
Absolutely,
for you?
absolutely,
Like,
and
for a lot
especially.
of-
Oh, 100%. I mean, think about it. These guys, look, like I said, I did 10 years with all of that pretty much being my 20s. There's guys that, you know, that are still in who were there the entirety of the GWAT, the entirety of the global war on terror. So these guys have seen it from start to finish, and to see it pretty much go back to the same people. And now this time they're more armed, more equipped, more recognized, if you will, because it was a win for them when the U.S. government is essentially being like, there you go, you know. So you see those guys. Absolutely, there's a sense of like, so what the fuck was all that for?
Yeah.
You know, like, there's not a single veteran or service member who will say that they haven't lost somebody either to suicide or to combat-related injuries or anything of that nature. The large majority of the guys have. You know, it's what we hoped for was essentially fighting for a cause and fighting for a purpose. And what I tied that purpose to was, at the very least, preventing something like that from happening again. Whether or not that was the case, I'll never necessarily know entirely.
You're going to have to write a whole nother
I
book.
won't. I know.
There's so much more
Yeah, I mean,
for you to say.
and it's just, and that's what I just hope that the guys, as they get out, they find purpose elsewhere. They find their identity elsewhere, but still maintain that part of who they are. Because at the end of the day, I will always be a Green Beret. You know,
Yeah.
And that's who I am as a person. You know.
Well, it's important. It's important. I think. You know, she's not joking. You should write. Everybody should read this book, Beyond the Assessment. Christian Perez. We've got 3 minutes here.
Gotcha.
But I think it's so important that you continue talking about these things. And
Yes.
one, you're willing to answer the difficult questions. And two, you're able to articulate what happened and your thoughts and emotions in ways that other people are definitely feeling, but they may not be able to articulate. So I think your purpose is definitely in being a leader and helping people understand what they are going through. You're still a medic in that regard. You're still helping people heal. You're still helping your guys. You're still, helping them get through. It's a different type of pain, but you're still helping them assess and you're still helping them heal. And I think, part of the calling why you wanted to write this book and why you wrote it the way that you did is because you are inclined to help.
Yes.
Right? You want people to read this and become better, become healthier mentally, physically, right? This is something that is for, it's not a long read. And it's something that a lot of people, that everybody can get something out of it. Everybody can take something from it. No different than your books. Everybody can take something from it. But I think that this is something, especially that people that have served, it'll be a very, very good way for them to maybe center themselves and find a baseline to then,
100%,
recover a little bit. And also to feel that they're not alone and they're not crazy.
We talked about getting wins, getting small wins, man. And I made that book. I made it short specifically for that reason. You know what a win it is to be like, I read a book today. You could read that in an hour, man. You can read it in 1 hour, and then at the end of the day, you're like, I fed my soul something that I haven't done in a long time. Just, a lot of people
makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Just ask yourself, when was the last time you read a whole book? It's a rhetorical question.
Or when
for
you
guys,
find yourself in a slump or feeling like you've just been struggling mentally, whatever. Almost always it coincides with not doing not pouring into yourself.
100%.
Not reading,
100%.
not listening to things that are uplifting, getting sucked into social media can be a very negative impact. But
well, that's the term media diet. I like that term media diet, right? It's like what you consume
what is
physically.
it? What's your timeline? If your timeline is like yours, you're probably a pretty happy guy, right?
Twerk.
But also, all this training is really going to come in handy for you when your 9-month-old is jumping off the refrigerator.
Yes, man.
Because he's going to.
Oh, I'm waiting for it.
He can't walk, but he's going to jump off that
Little
refrigerator.
paratrooper.
How excited are you? How excited are you to bust out the Nerf grenades and get the night vision out?
I gotta line up a whole arsenal,
awesome.
man. Like 100%.
Well, you got to be careful because your wife's enlisted as well, man. So you gotta. You might think she's on your team, but she's gonna be a double agent if you get a little too rough with her boy there.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, she's gonna. You're like, you got my 6, right? And she's gonna be pulling out her Bowie behind you, like, yeah, you hit my son again with one of the frags. That's so funny, man. Christian, tell people where they can find you, man, and where they can get the book.
Yeah, you guys can get this book. You can find it at www.beyondtheassessment.com. Right now, actually, it's currently available in multiple formats. I encourage you guys to look into the SEQ 3036 format. That's a format that I specifically made as an homage to my ODA. So that's a team. It comes with not just a book; it's a fancy cover. It's really nice. It's signed. It has every book. I only printed 36 of them. Every book has a different principle. Every book has a different challenge, and all 36 have combined pretty much make what I call the Warrior's Challenge. It comes with an engraved pen. It comes with an engraved notebook. All sorts of stuff. Check it out. That's on www.beyondtheassessment.com. If you just want, just something to read, just something to dive into. Amazon, it's right there. Beyond Assessment, look it up there, and it's also available in Spanish. So for Spanish readers,
Nice.
Espanol. This is gonna be. I think this is a 2-poop book for me. 2 poops.
Yeah, I like. We were talking about
great.
this. I love this about it. That it's a
Yeah.
easy, quick read too. It's with one plane ride.
that's it.
I'm gonna take this.
You're good. You're good. Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
fantastic. Carol Ann, thank you so much for sitting in with me on this. This has
It was
been
very fun.
Gerard versus Evil, guys. Christian, they can follow you online where?
Yes, sir. Chris Gray 0321 on Instagram.
Chris Gray 0321 on Instagram. Check out telyrx.com. That's TELYRX.com. Use code S&T for 20% off. I'm Gerard Michaels. She's Carol Ann Moljarevic. This has been new author Christian Perez. We will see you guys next time. Peace.
Okay, bye.
Everyone's a victim!